Hey everybody, it's Leroy from Leroy Gaming, and in today's Baldurs Gate 3 guide, we're going to be looking at the Circle of the Moon subclass for the Druid. We're going to cover features at level 1 of character creation, including ability recommendations. I'm going to give you a full level 2 to 12 breakdown, including all spells available as you level. Also later in the video, I'm going to give you a full Circle of the Moon transformation showcase of all options at level 12. After that, I'm going to give you some general equipment recommendations and my thoughts on multiclassing as the Circle of the Moon Druid. You can use timestamps below to jump to the areas that most interest you, and remember to drop a like and leave a comment below of your thoughts, feedback, and questions. And now, without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the Circle of the Moon Druid. Alright, here we are at level 1, and it's important to note the Circle of the Moon Druid's primary ability score will be Wisdom. You're going to have saving throw, proficiencies, and intelligence as well as Wisdom. Your hit die is only 1d8 hit points, and you're going to have proficiency with simple weapons, light armor, medium armor, and shields. Now, you're not going to get to pick the Circle of the Moon Druid at level 1, but you are going to get to pick 2 cantrips. Here they are. I'm going to go ahead and mouse over them for you. You can pause them if you want to read the details. Guidance is pretty much a must. Probably the best cantrip in the game. And unique to the Druid is also Shillelagh. So if you do want to use a staff and use your Wisdom stat with it instead of Dexterity, then this is what you would want to cast. Now you will also unlock level 1 spells, and you're going to get 2 level 1 spell slots. At level 1 you will be able to choose across these level 1 spells that will all be initially memorized. And when it comes to ability points, it makes sense to have 10 strength, 14 dexterity if you're going to be using medium armor, 14 constitution, 8 intelligence, 17 wisdom, and 12 charisma. Do note you could technically dump charisma if you wanted to bump up your constitution a little bit more. And your wisdom, I'm keeping it at 17. If you're gonna use the hag portion of the game to get this to 18, this will let you get 20 wisdom really fast, as early as level 4 potentially. You could technically drop this if you want to balance yourself out a little bit more, but do note when you are transformed into one of the beasts, you're only gonna be caring about your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, because your strength, dexterity, and constitution will transform to the stats of whatever the beast is that you transformed into. Alright, here we are at level 2, and this is when we get to pick the Circle of the Moon subclass. Now, feature-wise, big difference compared to other druids. You can do Combat Wild Shape, which basically means you can wild shape as a bonus action as opposed to as a main action for the other subclasses. And you can transform twice per shortlist, which is standard. You're also going to get Lunar Mend, so you can expend spell slots to regain hit points while in wild shape, and you can also do that as a bonus action, which is very helpful. Now when you start out, you're going to have access to 4 different wild shapes: Badger, Spider, Wolf, and Cat. And then unique to the Circle of the Moon, you get the wild shape Bear, which definitely is probably the most powerful form at level 2. They are definitely not all created equal, and you will get more of these as we level up. Do note, later in the video, I will do a showcase showing all of the different possible transformations, so feel free to use the timestamp to get there or just watch all the way through. Now you will also get 1 level 1 spell slot at this level, and you will have 5 spells that are prepared. Do note you cannot cast these while in bear form. You can only sacrifice the spell slots for healing. However, if you do want to cast outside of your transformation, here are all the different options you can choose from. I'll mouse over all of them, and of course you can pause the video if you want to read the full descriptions. Now as you level up, you will get more prepared spell slots. So right now we have 5, there'll be 6, 7, 8, and so forth. But these will be shared across all the levels. So right now you only have level 1 spells, but eventually you'll have level 2 spells, 3, 4, etc. You're always going to have way more spells known than prepared spell slots, so keep that in mind. But you can change it not only at level up, but also if you go into the inventory tab, there's little sub tabs at the top, and you can basically change out any of these as long as you're not in combat. Alright, at level 3, you're going to get 1 level 1 spell slot. And you're also going to get 2 level 2 spell slots. You're going to be able to prepare 6 spells now across level 1 and 2. And here are the level 2 spells that I'll go ahead and mouse over for you. Enhance ability is quite good. And again, do keep in mind that these will only really be useful if you are outside of transformation. Okay, at level 4, you're going to get 1 more level 2 spell slot. You're going to get to select another cantrip of your choice. You're going to get to be able to prepare 7 spells now. You will also unlock 2 more wild shapes, Deep Wrath and the Dire Raven. Now when it comes to feats for the Circle of the Moon Druid, it's a little bit more tricky. Of course you can use ability points to max out your wisdom, that's helpful. But because you don't get access to so many things while in bear form or different forms, it's a little different what I would recommend. Now, the thing that I recommend the most is actually Tavern Brawler, which may surprise you. This has been kind of bugged, but should be fixed. What it's supposed to do is when you make an unarmed attack, which does count your bear form or other transformed attacks, or if you use an improvised weapon, which you won't be doing, or throw something, your strength modifier is added twice to the damage and attack rolls. Currently, it looks like it's only adding the attack rolls instead of the attack rolls and the damage, but that should be fixed. That being said, Tavern Brawler is phenomenal for this. And then outside of that, I could also recommend Lucky in this case, because these you can definitely utilize regardless what your form you're in, and it'll allow you to use them to get advantage on attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. So you can definitely help out. So those are the 3 main options I would choose. Alright, level 5 is another big boost. You're going to get 2 level 3 spell slots, again for healing or for using other spells. And you're going to get Wild Strike. You can make an additional attack after making an unarmed strike while in Wild Shape. Do note that you cannot do an extra attack when you're just in normal form. And here are the level 3 spells that you can choose from. Alright, at level 6 you're going to be able to prepare 9 spells now. You'll also get 1 more level 3 spell slot. You're going to get Primal Strike. While in beast form, your attacks count as magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical damage. This is really big that you get this as soon as possible, because you're going to run into more and more enemies that have resistances as you go throughout the game. And you're going to get Wild Shape Panther and Wild Shape Owlbear. At level 7, you're going to get a level 4 spell slot and access to a bunch of new level 4 options. And do note you can also prepare 10 spells now. Here are the level 4 spells. And again, as a reminder, you can use this spell slot, for example, while you're transformed, to do a tier 4 heal, which is gonna heal you more and more as the spell levels increase. Alright, level 8 brings the ability to prepare 11 spells. You're going to get another level 4 spell slot that is unlocked. You're also going to get Wild Shape Saber-Toothed Tiger. And then you're going to get to pick your second feat. At level 9, you're going to be able to prepare 13 spells. You're going to get 1 more level 4 spell slot, but also your first level 5 spell slot. And here are the level 5 options for spells. Conjure Elemental is amazingly powerful. Do note you can summon an elemental and then go into a transformation form and the elemental will still stay there. Alright, with level 10, you're going to get to pick yet another cantrip. You're going to be able to prepare 14 spells. you're going to get another level 5 spell slot, and you're going to get improved Wild Strike. You can now make 2 additional attacks after making an unarmed strike while in Wild Shape, so you get 3 base attacks per turn. You're also going to get Wild Shape Dilophosaurus. So yes, you can get a dino, kind of looks like a raptor. And you're going to get the ability to Wild Shape into 4 different Myrmidons. So Air Myrmidon, Earth Myrmidon, Fire Myrmidon, and Water Myrmidon. And again, check out later on in the video, I will do a showcase of all these and their abilities. Alright, level 11 brings you the ability to prepare 15 spells, and you're going to get a level 6 spell slot and access to level 6 spells. And these are all quite potent, or again, you can use them for a nice powerful heal. And finally, at level 12, you're going to be able to prepare 16 spells, and you're going to pick your final feat. Alright guys, now we'll go ahead and do the showcase of all the different wild shapes. So the first one is going to be the Badger. This one does scale with hit points when it comes to getting higher and higher level, but he's going to be capping out here at 48 hit points. He's got a basic claw attack, and then his other ability is burrow. And it's kind of interesting, so as you emerge, wherever you come out, you could potentially make people prone. So you can kind of see the AoE effect of that. Really good for getting around and also surprising enemies. And I also wanted to showcase Lunar Mend here. Notice if you sacrifice level 1 spell slots, it's 1d8 healing, and then goes up by 1d8. At level 6 spell slots, it's 68 healing. The second transformation option is Cat. This one does not scale. I mean, it has the benefit of being small and getting into small places, but it only has 2 hit points. It's got Meow to attract attention, and of course you have your Lunar Mend. Next we'll go ahead and look at the Bear. And the Bear, as you can see, is going to have a ton of hit points, 111. He's going to have Goading Roar, which is basically an AoE taunt. And he's got his basic claw attack. That's pretty powerful. Next I'll show you the Deep Wrath. Here's a stat block. He has the ability to cast Dancing Light as a bonus action. He has his charge that can make enemies prone, and his basic gore attack. Next, let's go ahead and look at the Dire Raven. Here's the stat block. He can fly around. Here's his beak attack. And then he has Rend Vision that can blind enemies. And also note that his health does not scale, so he's stuck at 13 health. Next we'll go ahead and look at the Wolf. Here is a stat block. His health does scale. Here's his bite attack. He does have Inciting Howl. And basically, as you can see here, it allows everybody around him to basically move further. And he also has Exposing Bite. And what's really good here is at high levels, when you have 2 or 3 attacks, you can use this. And it'll make sure that the next attack is going to be a critical hit. Alright, next we'll go ahead and look at the Saber-Toothed Tiger. Here's his stat block, and again he does scale. Here's his bite attack, which is quite powerful. He also has Shred Armor that will lower the armor class of anything it hits. And he has Jugular Strike, which is really useful and does extra damage if you hit a prone target. Then there's the spider. Here's its stat block. It has the venomous bite attack that also poisons, and you can also cast web to unweb enemies. When they're unwebbed, they cannot move. Attack rolls against the affected entity have advantage, and when they attack, they have disadvantage, and they also have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. Next, we have the panther. Here's the stat block for the panther. It's gonna have a decent bite. It can go on the prowl, which is basically turn invisible. And not only that, but once you hit something while invisible, you do an extra 1d8 damage. You also have jugular strike that does more damage against prone targets. And you get pounce, leap attack, and it knocks enemies down. Next, we have the Dilophosaurus. So if you want to be a dino, here you go. Here's its stat block. Scales real nice with health. It's got its acid bite. It does a ton of damage. It also has corrosive spit, 18-meter range. Very powerful, and it can lower the armor class of enemies per turn. So up to -5. It can be negated by water. And then pounce, which will knock an enemy prone. And then we have the mighty owlbear. Now the owlbear, as you can see, has a ton of health. Here's the stat block for it. It's going to have a real powerful claw attack that also does a pushback. You're going to have rupture. So this is a big kind of AoE attack, which is quite potent. And you can also have crushing flight and knock things prone. Do note, if you jump on top of people from bigger heights, because you're so heavy, you'll actually do a lot more damage. So it's very, very devastating if you use it strategically. And also note, you can enrage for 3 rounds in combat, and it's going to get base instinct to increase your strength by 2, and it's possible to make nearby creatures fearful, so you can do the fear effect. Very, very cool, very powerful. And remember, this thing already has a strength of 20, so this will bump it up to 22, which would potentially give you a +6. If you use Tavern Brawler, it'll be +12 to attack and damage. Very deadly. And finally, we do have the Myrmidon forms, and I do want to point out these do take 2 wild shape charges each to go into it. We'll go ahead and start with the Earth Myrmidon. These are basically like elemental beings or creatures. They have a ton of health, 124 there. Here's the stat block, tons of AC too. Here's the basic ground thunder strike. And it also knocks enemies prone. You have the ability to burrow, sludgy sling, and basically it takes up this entire area. You also have muck to metal, which is actually going to make you more tanky. It's going to increase your armor class by 2, but it's going to make it so that you move more slowly. Then we have the Water Myrmidon. (108 hit points). Here's the stat block for it. It's got a basic melee attack that does extra cold damage. Notice it says you make a melee attack with your equipped weapon. You have healing vapors, which is very interesting. It can either be a decent heal, or if you happen to be poisoned, you can do an AoE poison attack, which is quite interesting. You have Elemental Warp, which is a teleport basically, and the range on it is actually quite decent. You also have Explosive Icicles. And then finally you have Hemel Strike, which is a quite deadly melee strike that does a ton of cold damage and has the effect of Chill, which is going to make you vulnerable to cold damage and resistant to fire damage. So following up with any cold damage after this is going to be very deadly. Next, we'll have the Air Myrmidon. It looks super cool, and here's the stat block for it. Now, its basic attack, again, uses your melee weapon, adds some lightning damage to it. You're going to have an invisibility that you can cast. You're also going to have Raging Vortex. And also very important is that this is going to cause silence. As you can see, it's a very big AoE. So anything in there is going to be silenced. You're also going to get Electrified Flail. That's not only going to do melee damage, that's quite significant, including a lot of lightning damage, but it's also going to stun enemies as well. You can fly. And then you have Elemental Warp. You can also teleport. So fly or teleport. And your final wild shape transformation is Fire Myrmidon. Now here's its stat block. Its base attack is a melee attack using your equipped weapon plus fire damage. It can fly. It can teleport. It has Myrmidon's Immolation, which basically is a 3-turn haste. So you're going to get extra AC, advantage on dexterity saving throws, double your movement speed, and you can do an additional attack. You also have Syndra's Swipe. So this is a lot of fire damage potentially, but they can resist and take less damage. So it's like a cast as opposed to a hit. And then you have another potential melee attack in Scorching Strike. Lots of damage of fire damage added on, and it can burn your target, which is going to do additional fire damage per turn after the initial hit. Alright, now talking about equipment for the Circle of the Moon Druid. Because you're going to be transformed into your transformation form for the majority of the time, your weapons, until you get to the Myrmidon stage, aren't going to matter as much. Basically, armor-wise, you're likely to want to equip the best medium armor you can. I would recommend a one-handed staff, for example, and a shield to get your AC higher when you're out of transformation. And then anything equipment-wise that's going to support your transformations. There are rings, for example, that will increase your damage while you're transformed, or get other, increases to AC, etc. So anything that will support you via your transformation, that's going to be big. Anything else that's going to give you extra spell slots is going to be good, because that means you can use them to cast your variety of spells out of transformation or heal yourself while in transform mode as well. So in some ways it's limiting, in some ways it just frees you up quite a bit as well. Now when it comes to discussing multiclassing, I would not necessarily recommend multiclassing the Circle of the Moon Druid. You technically get all of your forms at level 10, but if you go all the way to level 12, they'll have even more hit points. So if you really want to focus on transformations, which is the whole goal here, it just makes sense to go 12 levels of Druid. But if you must, you could technically do 2 levels of something else if there was a particular reason for it. For multiclassing, however, anything less than 10, you're going to give up on some cool transformations, and don't forget your forms will also have less health as that scales every 2 levels. Alright guys, that brings us to the end of my Circle of the Moon subclass guide for the Druid. I hope you guys found it helpful. If you did like it and found it helpful, please make sure to drop a like. If you want to see more content from me, make sure to subscribe. Thank you for all your support, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.